Awesome, what is going on? So we are looking at the Thursday market breakdown. Currently, you can see that I've shortened down my watch list and wildcards. I basically removed quite a lot of stuff that I just wasn't really interested in anymore. Sometimes it happens at the beginning of the week, something looks like it's going to shape up and be really nice, and then it does something completely different. In my opinion, it's even better to just remove it and not look at it. It's what I do personally. It's up to you if you like to do it. Yes, no, whatever. So jumping straight into it, we're looking at the DXY. With the DXY, it's still looking pretty good. I mean, look, as we always saw, it was always quite probable that price would come up here. So, you know, the bullish momentum in the US dollar was expected. Right now we're getting that level of confirmation, and now we're going to be seeing continuation across the board. This is something I found quite interesting, because if we look at the Euro USD, you know, we did have that inflection point we were always looking at, and it looks like we are pushing aggressively now to reach it. The funny thing is we do have this level of a near miss, not so significant, but it's nevertheless, it's possible that we can come back down to these areas if the DXY does become very bullish and starts moving aggressively. So that is something I would keep my eye on and be sharp with if you are looking at the Euro USD, but for now, keeping it very, very simple. We have to also look at potential patterns that could form. You know, this is possible that we could just get a drop off and then price consolidates a little bit, comes back up, and then we get something in this nature. Understand that this is always a possibility as well. It doesn't have to be like that. It could be, the angle could be slightly different, and it could take much longer, but this is something that, you know, I would personally keep my eye on as well. That, you know, these are also possibilities that the DXY can pretty much create structure in this area. This would be something I'll be more in favorable for personally. If we do get a decent middle section here, it would be a very corrective move down, so we would see a lot of ugly price across the board for the US related pairs, but it looks like there's some good price action happening across a few other pairs anyway. So that is one level of forecast, but more than likely, I'm not too focused on this structured approach at the moment. I'm now just going to keep it very simple and look for the push up and the push down, and that's basically it. It doesn't look like we're going to be getting any sort of structured approach to it at this point right now, but as we closen up to it, we might get some sort of level of structures on the lower time frames. That's something I'll be keeping my eye on, but right now it is a very impulsive move up. So for the DXY, it's very simple. I won't be monitoring this much right now, not really bothered with it. If we do get a strong push up, you know, still have to give it more time, so regardless, I can just leave it, go away, do something else. Japanese 225. Now the JP 225 is structurally looks very nice. The only negative confluence is that we have two little things. So looking at it on the 4 hour, oh, let's go to the weekly quickly, just for those who may have not seen this. We are trading at this all-time very high value area, which I think is something to keep very close attention to. So this is the high value area, the HVA, and essentially we've just aggressively moved back up there now. Even after we correctively started to squeeze low, it's no surprise we came up here, but we came up here with a lot of aggression. You know, we can see that they have very strong bullish momentum, which we love to see across Japanese pairs when we are looking at the ball, but the short is going to be phenomenal if we do get it soon. So essentially we're trading back in this area. Last time we came to this area we sold off, last time we sold off, and now we're a third time in there. We're pushing for all-time highs and we're waiting for that sell-off. It can take a little bit of time, but when it happens, and then we'll be in that bear momentum to the downside. We are looking at this on the lower time frames. On the 4 hour, it's a little bit clear. We can see left shoulder, head, right shoulder. We've been forecasting this for about 2 to 3 weeks. Well, 2 weeks ideally. The head and shoulder pattern was always something I was looking at, because it was usually when patterns are happening across the board through varied amount of pairs, sometimes, you know, it just kind of gives an indication that it's something that's possibly going to happen on this one. But structurally, this is what I was looking for, and we have it now. It's just a matter of being extra patient to take advantage of this, as this can still become something a little bit more messy. I wouldn't get married to the head and shoulder, but understand that that is what we are looking at, and removing the head and shoulders, we could be getting this expanding pattern where price just aggressively moves up and then we sell off. Understand that that is also a possibility. So as somebody who's just trading price, I would keep it very simple for now, and I will look at the left shoulder, the head, and this is the right shoulder. We can see that the right shoulder hasn't quite broken above, but we didn't have to because we did have a little bit of a test over here. I guess this comes with experience as well. I mean, if you're not familiar with these sort of structures, this sort of head and shoulders pattern, corrective light left shoulder, push up, aggressive push back down, creating the head, and then corrective right shoulder, and then drop off. If you're not familiarized with these, I would say the best thing you can do is go onto all your charts, go onto the daily, weekly, look for these high points, and look right and see what sort of pattern formed in this area. For example, if it was a head and shoulders, then you can put it into a separate documented page. For example, you can use any Word document, Excel, whatever you want. Take a snapshot, look at the head and shoulders and see how it played out, what time frame it played out, what final confirmations you had, what time frame did you look at in order to get into your entry, what type of entry did you take. All of those bits, that's what I did, and that's what made me more confident and familiarized with looking for entries on this. Otherwise, what would tend to happen is if you don't do that, you could take entries anywhere and just hope for the best and be like, okay, yeah, it's not going to come back up here. And then what happens is price drops off a little bit. You're hoping for this massive drop off move. You don't get it. You're looking all the way down here, and what's actually happening in price is price came down, came back up, and tagged you out for either a loss or a break even. So that's why I'm saying that practice makes perfect, but at the same time it comes with a lot of patience and mistakes as well. You have to put some skin in the game. Essentially, you got to lose some money on some of these pairs in order for you to really learn your lesson sometimes. But moving on to the watch list, we are looking at GBP yen. Now GBP yen was looking quite nice when we did have that rejection over here. However, at that point there, we basically just started to correctively squeeze back up. This is not the sort of typical price action I like to be in, to be honest, because if we look at it on the daily, we can see that we do have this potential for this sort of area, which meets with this inflection point over here, where price could create this larger sort of structure. We always knew that this was a possibility, always, since the beginning. So as soon as we had these two touches, and then we had that push down, and then that corrective squeeze back up, there was only two ways we were looking at this. We were looking at this either being a small tight flag over here to continue to the downside, and then call it just breaking above and pushing back in. However, we didn't get any commitment. We were still sitting within this whole corrective price. We didn't go anywhere, no need to take a trade, and now we've corrected back up. All we really need to do now is focus on this area over here, and then basically this structure. That's literally all we really need to focus on at this point, and if we can get that, then we may be in for a very nice position. However, we have to also understand that this isn't always our typical sell. We can always gravitate and go even further, so we must understand that price can just aggressively start to push and still continue to go higher. So that's something I'll be looking at as well. But this sort of trend line over here, this is my value area that I'll be looking at for a short position. So keep it very simple, very straightforward. Weekly rejection on this area would be very key. I think looking for reversal as well. I think at this point here now, I'm going to keep it very simple and wait for price to create something such as this, and then hopefully be able to take a position like that into the high, and then look for the short. And I think that's the best position for myself. However, we'll have to wait and see. If something like that does happen, we have to understand that it can take a lot longer than we expect, and it could be a late next week trade, really and truly. But nevertheless, the trade will be there eventually. So that's what I'm going to be looking for. Have to understand that this can also work as continuation to the upside, so I wouldn't get married to this straight away. I would just be very, very on the ball. At the moment, we can probably look at it more so like this, which I think pushes the confluences in the short direction. However, at this point in time, like I said, it's not something I'll get married to. I'll just leave it as it is. that's basically the best sort of position I could probably scale up with this. So that's what I'm going to be looking for. New Zealand yen, similar, very similar to what I've just forecasted on GBP yen, which also kind of raises that confluence. However, with New Zealand yen, we had a lot of volatility across the New Zealand pairs where price just dramatically started to push off. If I was looking for a position on this one, which I'm debating at the moment, there is a nice movement from here to this low, which could potentially be somewhere in the region of 6. If we could get more of a tighter stop loss, it could be a little bit more. I don't really see myself being able to get into this. I think the reduced risk is the best trade. Just the risk reward is not really there, but that's basically it. That's how I'm looking at this. Push down. It's correcting for quite some time now. Just refine it a little bit more. And if I go into this looks somewhat like a middle section. And then if we can push one more push up for that sell, that's when you could be looking to position yourself, understanding that we can probably gravitate to this level here as well. So for that reason, I'm probably not going to be taking that position. And then going on to US dollar yen. Basically with US dollar yen, it's looking very bullish. We are pushing up quite aggressively, which at this point is not what I'm looking for. Did see the DXY somewhat turning around from this level, didn't quite get any commitment. The Japanese yen was also selling off. It was kind of giving good vibes for this pair, but at the moment it's just going very bullish. We have to understand that we do have some inflection points along the way, but if we are going to get that strong bull momentum, I would most probably be looking at sort of regions up here. Looking at it on the 4 hour, we are squeezing right now. Well, we kind of correctively and then we pushed. Not my typical price action, I'll be honest with you. It's not the sort of trading area that I want to get involved in. There could be a short-term position here. Excuse me. Yeah, short-term position right here. But that's not the position I'm looking for. I think more so I'm going to be looking for the position up here. But we have to be aware that that was also a very valuable area as well, because last time we came here we just sold off. Similar price action up here. I think this is more of the value area I'll be looking at, so we'll just have to wait and evaluate slowly. But looking at, like I said, New Zealand, New Zealand's looking very different, to be honest, so I wouldn't compare this one so much to other yen pairs at the moment, but GBP for sure, it's corrective, give it some time. US dollar yen as well, I think it needs some more time. Structurally, are we getting a structured approach? I couldn't say no at this point. Looking at it like this, that does kind of work out really well. It would make sense now for this to push up and create some sort of structure into it for us to sell off. Like I said, it needs time to develop, but these are the structures that usually play out pretty well, so give it some time. That's fairly large though, to be honest. It's kind of off-putting in some ways because of how large this correction is now. Down there it was looking quite nice, but now that it's correcting all the way up here, it's not really the best trade in my opinion anymore. It was looking very nice now because it's pushing up aggressively. It could just tap into this and maybe come back in, or we might just see it continue pushing higher. So we have to definitely keep our eyes on this, and especially with the DXY as well, it's starting to be quite similar in that aspect where we did have a nice little sell-off. We are still in that continuation zone, so we'll have to wait and see. I think the DXY still has that very good sell momentum in it. You just have to wait that through. CAD Yen is also one which I think is well similar to USD Yen at this point. The correction is looking very good, but we have that squeeze approach to that high, and we've just broken above. We are on the weekly, so I think sells anytime now would be very nice. Just waiting for a solid push down on the flag. I think that's very, very key. We kind of just squeezing in this area here, which is, in my opinion, not too bad. If we push up higher, then obviously this whole sort of scenario, I'm going to just scrap it because it's not what I'm going to be looking for. Be looking at next inflection points and so forth, but Right now it's looking like we are forming impulse correction continuation to the upside. However, if we do get a strong push down, that's when I'll be looking for short position. So as well, on the higher time frame, it's looking okay. We still have a strong push, larger flag here, flag within a flag sort of situation. We have a squeeze, 1 2 3. At this point, it's just, I think I need to give it some more time. We have some liquidity sitting right here as well. Do we gravitate, push up, tap into that? It's probably quite far away, so I would really not be looking for that. I think I'm just going to wait for impulsive push up, impulsive push back down, and then as soon as we trade below this level, start giving us some flagging territory, that's when I'll get involved. Euro New Zealand. Now, Euro New Zealand is a mistrade for me, unfortunately. It's one which I think turned out to be phenomenal. And I think if I was more sharper, I could have definitely taken more advantage of this, because looking back on it now, you know, what that one over there would have been running somewhere in the region of, let's just say to the high, it went 24%. And then that's for the 19 pip. And then if I was to take it for the 10 pip, which was the true refined position, you're looking at roughly around about, 44%. 44%. Whew, honestly, madness. It's phenomenal what can be achieved in this market. And then also, don't forget the scaling opportunity over here. If we were to actually have got that as well, we would have then, on top of that, made another trade position, which could have been reduced risk entry most probably if it was taken. It moved up quick though, so possibly not. 40 pip stop loss. Yeah, another on top of that, you'd be looking at a 50% position because you'd be adding that on top, so 10% there. So yeah, it's not bad. Cool. Let's see. So that's pretty good. And then we have New Zealand Swiss. New Zealand Swiss is looking pretty good, to be honest. I mean, we had this sort of test of this region and we just sold off aggressively. Is it something that I would have been able to take advantage of? No, not really, because I don't know when I would have waited a little bit more for that push above, just to tap into that bit there. We didn't quite get it. We got some sort of corrective squeeze lower, and then refining it on the 1 hour, even though this did have some sort of push down, this isn't the sort of price that I was going to be getting involved in. I think maybe in there could have been a trade, but not really. So New Zealand Swiss, I think easily, I was waiting for a larger correction over here for me to sell, but at the moment, because I'm not getting it and I won't be trading tomorrow, I'm just going to take that one off watch as well. So I think for the only New Zealand pair that I'll be looking at is, well, to be honest, I don't think I need to be putting this on watch either. At this point in time, if we do get a flag in this area, it could be good for the long, but because it is coming from a very strong impulse, but to be honest, I don't think I'm going to be able to catch that at this point, so I'm going to have to stay sharp and wait for this one. Yeah, New Zealand yen, this is the one I'm counting on. If we do get that correction, that squeeze, push back up, push down, that might be the trade. That might be the trade for today. It's the only one I'm going to be focusing on, that one right there. Not going to take a risk entry, wait for the retrace, but we'll have to wait and see. Anyway, that is basically it for this week. If you guys have any questions or anything you'd like to ask me, please drop a message. I'll be more than happy to get back to you. We are looking pretty good for the week ahead, so yeah, essentially, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and like if you did enjoy this video, and I'll catch you in the next one on Tuesday.